Welcome back to Sunday Sound Off. Our first hot topic of the night: which frontline Royals player will not be here on August 1st? I need a guarantee. Tap. One player. Go.
Mike Moustakas. He's on pace for 43 home runs, even after not hitting one today. And as much as the Royals would like to see him sit here and stick around for a chance to crack Balboni's record, and Salvador Perez, by the way, on that hunt as well, he's the player that has an immediate need for a team that I can see right now. The Red Sox are desperate, and some of the analysts have made a point of going out of the way, Buster Olney included, when he talked about it on the Border Patrol, the fact that they have spent all this money, they have a top 5 payroll in baseball, and they need left-handed power. Mike Moustakas fits someone's bill immediately. Both of the other guys are at risk. Lorenzo Cain's having one of his better and more healthy seasons he's had in 2 or 3 since 2015, when he finished in the top 3 of the MVP voting. And then Eric Hosmer, obviously you've seen his tear through here as well. And he, probably going to command the largest amount of money, makes it likely he could go too. But if you're making me choose between the 3, I think Mike Moustakas and just the idea of power. People like that part of it. Plus, he plays a pretty good bag at third. So when you put those things together, I feel like Mike Moustakas is the most likely to move.
Stan, who's gone?
Jason Vargas. I think that Vargy, as we call him, is pitching excellent and at a level that makes everyone not worry about his injuries of the past. And everyone's looking for starting pitching. And I think that with his contract situation, he has a contract for 1 more year. But basically, if you look at the details, he can go after this year. I think he's the guy who is achieving such high-level play compared to what you probably would think on average, that I think his value is the highest. I think it's going to be hard to find the other guys. I'd go with Lorenzo Cain. We're talking about an everyday player as the most likely, but I'm going to go with Vargy as the guy that'll be gone before the end of the Royals season.
Sren.
Hold on a second. I'm throwing up in my mouth a little bit by a media guy calling a player Vargy.
Fan.
Stan, I mean, at least you did play ball at the college level, so you're kind of a player, right? But Vargy and Haas.
Hey, it makes you feel baseball cool.
Yeah,
baseball cool.
It is part of the baseball culture. That's right. Well, look, I'll tell you the guy Nettie's not going to have on his squad. That's going to be Kelvin Herrera. I talked to a scout this week, who said, look, the guy that everybody's got their eye on, that Washington really wants right now, is Kelvin Herrera. He's a bullpen piece. He's a guy that most teams think can close, which to me is a little bit ironic because that's the one thing he hasn't done lights out here. We've seen him be great in those setup roles for the Kansas City Royals. And I think the other thing that clubs know is that he can be great in the postseason because he's done that before. But he hasn't really got enough of a track record to know that he can close. Of course, he's better than anything Washington's got. And they really want him right now. He said, look, that extra year there for Kelvin Herrera, plus any team that knows they're going to be in the playoffs, like Washington or even a Houston that's running away with it, knows that they've got to try to win playoff games in playoff style. That means bullpens that are lights out and guys that can go multiple innings. He said that extra year of service time that you get with Kelvin Herrera is going to bring, quote unquote, the mother load for the Kansas City Royals. He said he'll bring back more than anything else that the Royals have right now. Now take that with a grain of salt. That's one scout. But then throw in the fact that there were confirmed reports that Allard Baird, former general manager of the Royals and now special assistant to the Red Sox, was out in New York scouting the Royals against the Yankees and then went with them to Cleveland to scout them in Cleveland. Means that, as you heard Cody Tapp talking about the Red Sox having interest, they're looking at the Royals very long and hard. I think there are going to be a number of guys move, like I said, after that draft. And I think Kelvin Herrera will absolutely be gone because he's the guy who, according to some scouts, say he absolutely will bring the most back to the Royals.
All right, here's our second hot topic of the evening. What's your take on Eric Berry, Marcus Peters, and Justin Houston all missing the OTAs this past week? Stan's it a big deal?
Well, first of all, I want to start with voluntary because the collective bargaining agreement has allowed the players to have voluntary opportunities here at the OTAs. The fact that these guys didn't come, they have every right to do that. Now I'll move to the other side and what I believe with my heart. I want the Kansas City Chiefs to compete for a Super Bowl. And I think every little thing matters. If it didn't matter that these OTAs and players come together for whatever reason wasn't important, then the Kansas City Chiefs would have called it off and said, everyone just stay home. We're not going to gain anything here. I do think you gain something. I think you build your team slowly but surely. I think every team's a new year. Every year is a new team, I should say. And even though a lot of returning players are coming back for the Chiefs, you have to start all over. You got to set the tone. And I think every player that sits out and doesn't come is a bad little small piece in the development of the Kansas City Chiefs. It starts obviously with Eric Berry. I put him in a slightly different category than the other two because he's a captain. He has a reputation of being an absolute leader for this ball club, and he has got his big contract finally. I was surprised Eric Berry didn't come in this year. The last 2 years I understood why. Yes, I'm concerned because I want the Chiefs to have dedication and belief and start working together as a team. I think it's important in football, even here in May.
Soren.
Well, I hate hearing Stan say that because I value Stan's opinion when it comes to the sport of football, maybe as much as anybody out there. And I love talking football with Stan, and he's so knowledgeable. But I'm going to disagree with him. I think Stan, obviously we know with Stan's work with K-State that, he gets great access to Bill Snyder, maybe the most brilliant football mind out there. And I think there might be a little bit of the coaching mindset there. Coaches will tell you every practice is important, every minute's important, every second's important, every rep is important. And yeah, theoretically, yes, that's the case. But Eric Berry wasn't there last year. He wasn't at OTAs. He wasn't at training camp. And what did he do? He went out and had the best season of his career. Look, I get it. You can't have everybody miss. And in reality, the guys who miss are the guys that have no fear of their next contract getting done. Look at the three that aren't there. Eric Berry just signed a mega deal. He doesn't have to worry about a contract for several years. Justin Houston's in the middle of a $100 million contract and feels very secure about his job. I think actually he probably should be there with two injury-plagued years in a row. He should have a little more urgency there. And then Marcus Peters, who's come to the opinion, and may not be wrong, that he's the best cover corner in football right now. There's going to be plenty of people offering him a contract. It is voluntary, right? They don't have to go. And the guys who don't go are the guys who aren't worried about that next contract. And frankly, the Kansas City Chiefs will be fine. There are plenty of guys there. The one spot you worry about is if the quarterback's not there, because that's the guy they're going to catch the football from. But he's there, they're fine, these guys will be fine, and the Chiefs will be okay this season.
Cody.
The one hang-up in the Eric Berry for me, because I tend to lean more towards what Soren says, and I don't see it as being a huge deal that he's not there in the field. Andy Reid himself said essentially these guys are playing against trash cans, and that's a majority of what they do. But the one thing is that it's flying in the face of is they just gave him all that money. They gave Eric Berry a ton of money, and just showing up would have meant something to them, even if it didn't mean something on the field. But it shouldn't be glazed over, and the reason why it won't affect them, I don't think it will affect them on the field, is the fact that they are returning. Stan mentioned they're not just returning some players or a lot of players. They're returning 21 of, or every single one of the starters. 22 of 23, I can't remember the number. 21 of 22, sorry. 21 of 22. So they're returning almost every single one of the starters. Dontari Poe, the only one that's missing from that group, coupled with returning more roster spots than any other team. When you have that kind of experience, and when you look at every position group, Tamba Hali is there instead of Justin Houston. Derek Johnson was there for the middle linebacker group. They have an experienced cornerback group as well that were all there with him last year. And the safety position has both Ron Parker and Daniel Sorensen both signed a long-term deal. So there's experience in the position that those guys are missing too, so it just doesn't strike me as being a big deal yet.
Okay, now final hot topic. You got 15 seconds each. Will Mizzou basketball live up to its offseason hype? Soren.
Yeah, I think it will. There are going to be ups and downs. They'll lose to a team that you think they have no business losing to, but they'll take down a Kentucky or Florida. Look, this team is loaded with talent. Konzo Martin should have a great chance. Look, I think the key is for Missouri to go as far as they possibly can to let the world know and let the recruits know that they're there and ready to win so that they can build off this season.
Cody.
Depends on what level of hype you're talking about, but probably this looks to be a fringe tournament team, and if everything goes right, maybe a little bit better. The one thing that will hold them back that people don't say enough is it's really hard to put that many new faces together under a new coach. So that gives me pause, but I still think it's a tournament team.
Stan.
Missouri wakes back up. We've paid no attention to the basketball, so they're going to live up to the hype. Michael Porter Jr. is going to be there, and there are a lot of good players, so it's going to be exciting basketball. They're going to be relevant. Maybe they'll get an upset or two. If you say the hype is making the NCAA tournament, I'd be a little careful. It's hard to put a team together that's that young. John Calipari can do it. We don't give him enough credit. Konzo Martin's got a big job ahead of him.
If they don't make it, they will not have lived up to the hype. Up next, we're going to get some final thoughts from our panel. It's their time to sound off anything that's on their minds. You're watching Sunday.